Hello, everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty here for the VPartySports podcast. We're here with you on a Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on the East Coast, 6 a.m. on the West Coast. If you happen to see the replays, we'll have them every hour on the hour, 7 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Pacific time, right up until kickoff for the NFL. 3 games on Sunday, 5 NBA games. And you know why there's 5 NBA games on December 25th? Because it is Merry Christmas. A Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Thank you for all your support. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all the comments, all the notes that I've been getting. A very Merry Christmas to you and your family. A 4-0 Saturday. So if you took my advice, you got some early presents under the tree. We're here 3 times a week. The NFL preview season, the NFL recaps. We had a full Saturday of football. No NBA on Saturday, but a lot on Friday. They're taking a day off before the 5 games tomorrow. We'll get to those in a second. The NFL had 12 games today, 12, 13. Let's see, 11, 3, 14, 15. Yeah, 11 games today. Only 2 in the afternoon, 2 big ones in the afternoon. And it turned out to be a really good day. So from my show, the VPartySports podcast, my family, my friends, to you, your family, and your friends, a very, very Merry Christmas. Hopefully you're watching the show while you're opening the presents, getting ready for NBA basketball to start at noon, NFL football to start at 1 o'clock Eastern, and 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the West Coast for the NBA. The first of 5 games all day today for the NBA. 5 college games, too, and we'll get to that in a second. 1 Big East game, 4 games in the Hawaii Diamond Classic out there in Honolulu with the 8 teams that are left, including the championship game that'll be later on in the afternoon. All right, let's get to it. First of all, let's hit the NBA. I want to give you this because if you're watching the replay and it's the noon Eastern replay, I want to make sure you get this right off the bat. The first best bet of the day is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers and New York Knicks to go over 217. Like I said, if you're watching this at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock in the West, the game starts right at noon, so I don't want you to miss this out. The first free bet of the day, the first best bet of the day, Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks over 217. The Sixers on a roll. They've won 7 straight. The Knicks are on a 2-game losing streak after winning 8 in a row. So it's going to be a good way to start this game. Both teams have been scoring proficiently. Philadelphia came back from a 19-point deficit Friday night against the Clippers. In New York, after winning 8 in a row, they lost to Toronto, and then they lost on a last-second shot by DeMar DeRozan against the Bulls. They've already played the Bulls 3 times. They're 2-1 against them, so they're hoping they see them maybe later on down the road in the playoffs. Okay, that's your best bet to start off. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is a VParty Sports podcast. You can reach me at VPartySports on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, Vasu Vaddiparty, YouTube, Facebook as well, YouTube, and also at Vasu Vaddiparty. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Please send your comments. Please send your views. We appreciate all the support as we head into 2023. Got a lot to talk about: the Christmas holiday, New Year's holiday with the BCS, next week with the semifinals for the 4 teams there, and more NBA, the NFL coming down to the last 2 weeks. A lot of ramifications coming on. But let's get to the NBA here real quick. 5 games, Christmas Day to start the season. You see the standings going underneath. We'll give you those in a second. We'll give you the lines in a second as well, too. But 5 games to start Christmas Day. Just gave you the Philly New York bet over. Lakers at Dallas follow right after that. Milwaukee, Boston follow that. Memphis at Golden State. Steph Curry is going to be out for 2 more weeks, according to the Warrior press release. And Denver, who's been playing really well lately, too, will get Phoenix at home tonight. You see the standings. They go by. You have the Boston Celtics leading the way. They've lost 3 in a row at home, but they finally got a win against Minnesota on Friday night. On Friday night, they covered the 10-point spread. They haven't been covering lately. Obviously, 3 home games in a row to lose. That's very unheard of. You got Boston, Milwaukee right there, a half a game back, both of them with 10 losses. Cleveland, 22-12. A little interesting fact about Cleveland. They have the best point differential in the NBA. You look at this. Philadelphia's won 7 straight. The Brooklyn Nets have 8 straight wins. They're 9 out of their last 10. You wouldn't think the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were 3rd in the East, they've got the best point differential per 100 possessions. 116 for every 100 possessions, 110 in defensive possessions based on 100 possessions. Anthony Davis is out indefinitely. We mentioned Steph Curry will be out for 2 more weeks as well. The hot teams right now, Memphis Grizzlies, you figured that. They're second in the West right now, 20-11. Denver beat them last Tuesday night, so they have the head-to-head difference. So it's Denver, Memphis, New Orleans, Phoenix, the Clippers, Sacramento, who's still playing well, though they lost to Washington as an 8-point favorite the other night. Tough one for you Sacramento Kings bettors, myself included. Utah 7th at 19-16. Dallas 8th at 17-16. Very inconsistent are the Dallas Mavericks right now. And the Portland Trailblazers are 9th in the West. So that's where we have it right there. As we said, Philadelphia 7 straight. Cavaliers, the best point differential. Memphis is 8-2 in their last 10. They got beat up by Denver on Tuesday night in Denver. They haven't been playing as well on the road. Some of the home stats that they have, they're going to be on the road right now, but they're in Golden State tonight. That's the 4th of the 5th games, but they're 13-2 at home, so you got to keep that in mind. The Memphis Grizzlies are 8-2 in their last 10. The Orlando Magic, how about that? The Orlando Magic 8-2 in their last 10 as well. The Cavaliers at home are 16-3. The Bucks are 14-3. They don't play very well on the road. We'll give you some of the road numbers in a second. And Memphis is 13-2 at home. You look at the standings and the games that are going on. Boston 12-5 at home. Milwaukee is 8-7 on the road. They've been getting beat pretty bad on the road. You look at the Knicks and the Sixers. The Knicks are 8-9 at home. They haven't played very well at home either. Sixers are only 5-7 on the road, but 14-5 at home. The Knicks are 10-6 on the road. How about that? So you look at some of those, and their point differential plus 2.7. Philadelphia plus 3.9. You would be surprised at the teams that lead the point differential. I told you about Cleveland. Boston's second at 5.9, and then nobody in the West is above 5. The leader in the clubhouse is the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 4.9 as far as point differential. The Memphis Grizzlies are 4.8. A lot of that due to them being at home. The Lakers and Dallas. No Anthony Davis. Dallas 12-5 at home. The Lakers struggle at home. They're not even in the top 10. They're 5-11 on the road right now. So they're an 8-point underdog tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. This afternoon against the Dallas Mavericks. Memphis is 7-9 away from the FedEx Forum, 13-2 at home. Golden State. Here's the funny thing about Golden State. Golden State 12-2 at home. They're 3-16 on the road. I don't even think anybody else has less than. I think that's the worst record as far as home and away. Does anybody else have less than 3 wins? As I go through the Eastern standings, the worst road record. Houston. Houston has a 3-13 road record. So the Golden State Warriors are the worst team in the NBA on the road. But they get a home game where they're 12-2, about a 7-point favorite. No Wiggins, no Curry tonight in that game. And then Phoenix and Denver. Phoenix in the 4th spot. They're 5-9 on the road. Denver 11-3 at home. Phoenix is 16-9 in the conference, and that would make them 3-5 away from Footprint Center in Phoenix. They're 3 of their last 10 in terms of the last 10 games. They've lost 2 in a row. Denver's won 3 in a row, and a lot of that's been at home. They beat up on Portland the other night as well, too. So those are the games that we have. You look at what's going on in the NBA right now. The lines for the game coming in. Philadelphia, 2.5-point favorite, 217. I gave you the over already in that game as one of the best bets. So Philadelphia at New York, 217 the total, and I go over on that. Dallas, an 8-point favorite versus the Lakers, 229.5. LeBron James questionable, no Anthony Davis. They've given up a ton of points on defense, though. And the game against Charlotte the other night, 260 points that they lost at home. They were a 3-point favorite. They lost to Charlotte. Boston, a 5-point favorite against Milwaukee. That's a fair number, even though Boston's lost three out of the last 4 at home. They're at home today. Milwaukee does not play well on the road. They got beat by 40 to the Memphis Grizzlies earlier this month. About a week ago Friday, I think they got beat by 40. 224.5 the total. Memphis 6.5 at Golden State. Nobody injured for Memphis. They played well at Phoenix. No Devin Booker. Devin Booker back for Phoenix as they go to Denver, a 3.5-point underdog. Denver favored by 3.5, 231.5. Lots of points expected to be scored in that game as well. So those are your 5 games for the NBA on Christmas Day, starting at noon Eastern, and then 2:30, and then 5 o'clock. 8 o'clock for Memphis and Golden State. Denver and Phoenix rounded out at 10:30, all on ESPN, all on ABC. So a big plethora of NBA basketball. With Christmas being on the weekend, obviously there's football involved too. When we come back, we're going to get to the NFL. Standings are all set in terms of the NBA. So we've got Week 16 continuing. Jacksonville beat the Jets the other night. We'll get into that as well because some news for Jacksonville to go on. And then the 11 games that we had today. Lots of ramifications in the playoffs. A couple of teams were eliminated. How about that night game in Pittsburgh? It was a terrific game by 2 6-8 teams trying to stay alive by the hair of their chinny chin in terms of the Las Vegas Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when we come back in 1 minute, the NFL preview for Saturday. First 3 games today. First one starts at 1 o'clock, and they go all the way through the night. Most of the games played today, and, of course, the Monday night game as well. But a big NFL preview for today. We'll give you a recap of Saturday's action, and we'll get to the best bets segment in a shortened show for Christmas. Merry Christmas again to everybody. We will see you in 1 minute with the NFL recap and the previews for Sunday football on this Christmas Day. Thanks very much for joining us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back in 1 minute. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the VPartySports podcast. Merry Christmas to everybody, to you and your families. Thank you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for the comments, the nice comments, the follows, the subscriptions. Really appreciate it as we head into 2023. Again, if you followed my picks yesterday on Saturday, 4-0 Saturday, got a little luck involved with that. Go through the games. The Giants came through for me late in the fourth quarter. The Steelers came back on the Raiders last night, covered the -2. And then the Cincinnati Bengals almost gave it up to the New England Patriots after building a big lead. And then is there anybody hotter than the San Francisco 49ers? They put it on the Washington Commanders big time today. All right. Again, Merry Christmas to everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Monday, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific time. NFL recaps from the whole weekend, including today's games. We'll recap NBA Christmas Day. The 5 games. Don't forget the daily posts every day during the week, 6 o'clock Eastern. A little shift on that. Depends on what time these college tournaments start through the holidays. But once we get to after New Year's and conference play gets into full swing, it'll pretty much be all night games at that point. And so the 6 o'clock post will be there for everybody. It'll be an hour before most nights, and you'll be able to get your action in. You'll be able to get the latest information. You'll be able to get the latest lines as well, too. And if you're interested in sponsorship inquiries, please contact me directly. All right, Vasu Vaddiparty here with the VPartySports podcast on this Christmas Day. Let's get to the NFL. You see the lines going down at the bottom, but let's hit them individually here. Let's recap Saturday before we get to the Sunday games here. The Buffalo Bills stay number 1 in the AFC. They got a 35-13 win over my Bears. The Bears had a lead at the half, I believe. I think they were up 10-6 at the half. Let me look at this here. I believe that was it. Yep, 10-6 at the half. 29-3, they get outscored in the second half. It went Singletary for 33 yards, James Cook for 27 yards, a Josh Allen 4-yard touchdown run, Dawson Knox 13-yard pass. I know everybody's talking about Jalen Hurts as an MVP, but I would like to throw Josh Allen's hat in the name. He's doing in the hunt for the MVP. He's doing it all for Buffalo, and they are the number 1 seed in the AFC. They stay that way. They go to 12-3. Kansas City goes to 12-3 as well, too, as they beat up on the Seahawks. 24-10, the Seahawks have been leaking oil for 4 weeks. They're at 7-8. The Mahomes show, 224, 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith, 215 yards, a touchdown, and interception. They had a chance to keep it close. Didn't work out for them. Walker the third, 107 yards rushing. Jerick McKinnon, the Jet, six touchdowns in December. He's on fire right now for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's not even their every down back. That's the rookie Isaiah Pacheco. But 24-10, they've already clinched the AFC West as Kansas City. They go to 12-3. They're trying to get ahead of Buffalo because of the head-to-head tie, 24-10, and they stay the number 2 seed in the AFC. Seattle now 7-8. They've got problems. They're still ahead of the Detroit Lions. They're still ahead of the Detroit Lions. They're still ahead of Green Bay, who plays today. Green Bay has a chance to get themselves back in the race at 6-8. Detroit 7-8. Seattle 7-8. And the Giants in Washington, which we'll get to in a second, are 7-1 for Washington, 8-6-1 for the New York Giants. All right. We've got the Seattle now 7-8. The Giants lose 27-24. They tied the game up late. For those of you that have +4 on the Giants, that was one of my winners. Greg Joseph, Greg the Leg, 61-yard field goal with 4 seconds left to end it for Minnesota. Minnesota goes to a 12-3. They're a game back of Philadelphia. Philadelphia lost. We'll get to that in a second. They don't have the tiebreaker on Philadelphia because Philadelphia beat them early in the year as the Eagles lost to Dallas today. But Minnesota, 12-3. They stay ahead of San Francisco for the number 2 seed at 12-3. San Francisco at 11-4 as they beat up on Washington for their 8th straight win. Is that right? 8 straight wins, I believe, is what they got. They were 3-4. They have their 11th win, 8 in a row. Defense was outstanding, 9-2 in the conference. It was a 37-10 win, 37-20 win for the 49ers over the Commanders. Got a little dicey there for laying the 6.5. That was another pick that I had today as well, too. How about McLeod, 71-yard run? Dotson had a good game. Anybody hotter than George Kittle? We just said Jerick McKinnon, but 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks for George Kittle. And how about Brock Purdy? What a job he's done. 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. The interception wasn't even his fault. Jennings had the ball, and he deflected it up in the air. Brian Robinson, 58 yards. McLeod led the team with that 71-yard run. McCaffrey had tough runs in the fourth quarter. Kittle, 6 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. We said they're in the 3 seed right now. 1 game back in Minnesota. They have all the tiebreaker edges on Minnesota, so if they can catch them, 1 more loss by Minnesota and the 49ers and their defense stay this hot, they've got a chance to be the number 2 seed. They're number 3 right now, 11-4, 5-0 in the division, 9-2 in conference play. The NFC West is theirs. It was theirs the night they beat Seattle 2 Thursdays ago. So 8 straight wins for the 49ers. The Carolina Panthers beat the Detroit Lions. This is huge for Carolina. We'll get to the Carolina situation in a second because they're 6-9 now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 6-8. They've got the Arizona Cardinals on the road. Tampa Bay has not played well on the road this year. I can tell you that right now. The road records for Tampa Bay are, if you're 6-8, they can't be very good anyway. So Tampa Bay is 2-4 on the road. Arizona is, with Kyler Murray being out, they haven't played well at all. They are 1-7 at home. So a 7.5-point favorite, as you can see at the bottom for Tampa Bay. But this is a spot for Arizona to maybe jump up and bite them a little bit because they've got a chance. They've got Streetsman going for them. No Kyler Murray. He's out for the year. No Trace McSorley. They're going to go with the third-string quarterback. They're eliminated. Tampa Bay needs this game. If they lose this game and go to 6-8 with the Carolina win, Carolina will jump into first place. And with those records, there's only going to be 1 team out of that division for the playoffs, and they're going to get a 4 seed ahead of the Dallas Cowboys, which we'll get to in a second. So, Cardinals beat Detroit. First, if Tampa Bay loses, let me edit that here. I don't know where these auto spells come in. All right, there we go. First, if Tampa Bay loses, and they've got a shot to lose to Arizona tomorrow night. Don't forget, I mean, Arizona's played pretty well in some games. They've made it close. They took the Niners close the first time they played them, but they are 1-7 at home, but 7.5 points is a lot. But Carolina, if they can run the table, they've got New Orleans and Tampa left on their schedule after this win over Detroit. So how about that? The Carolina Panthers, they trade McCaffrey. They trade Robbie Anderson. Baker Mayfield gets released. They fire Matt Rule. Steve Wilkes is in there, and they're playing pretty good defense right now. In this streak that they've got, they lost to the Steelers. They beat up on Seattle. They beat Denver, and they lost to the Ravens. So 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2 in their last 5. But when you're 5-9, as they are, 6-9 now after the win against Detroit, and only a half game back at Tampa, you got a shot to win. You've already beat Tampa once, and I think you already beat New Orleans too, if I remember right. Yeah, 22-14 at home. I think New Orleans was favored in that game. Going back, 2-point favorite back on. What was the date on that game? It was the 3rd week of the season, so I want to say it was September 25th. So now the Panthers have the Buccaneers next week. They've got the Saints in the final weekend, and we could be looking at a first-place team here at whatever record it's going to be, but nobody's going to be over 500. It's going to be 500 or worse, depending on what Tampa Bay does. If Tampa Bay gets a win, the division probably will be wrapped up, but it's just a matter of seeing how they will go. Carolina only 1 game back. Tampa Bay needs that win, or else they'll be in 2nd place, and Carolina will be in 1st place. All right, New Orleans, they only have 9 losses as well, too. They beat up on Cleveland. They eliminated the Browns today, officially. They're 1 back of the NFC South as well. Now, they don't have the tiebreakers as Carolina does with the head-to-head matchups. Carolina 2-0 in this round robin. Tampa Bay 1-1, 2-1 in this round robin. And then New Orleans lost to Carolina. They lost to Tampa Bay twice, so they're 0-3. So they have no tiebreakers in this round robin in determining the division. Division records: Tampa Bay and Carolina 3-1, Saints 2-3. But they get a 17-10 win. They're playing better defense. They're only a game back of Tampa Bay right now, so anything can happen. They would have to finish ahead of both teams in order for them to get the division. So New Orleans eliminates Cleveland. Baltimore clinched the playoff spot. They're 10-5 behind the red-hot Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals held off New England today, 22-18. They had a 22-0 lead. They've won 7 in a row. Now they're 11-4. They're a game better than Baltimore. They lost to Baltimore early in the year. Now they're 2 games. They've got Buffalo next week. That's a huge game. They can catch Buffalo, maybe. Yeah, Buffalo has 3 losses. So if they beat them, then they've got a chance to be a number 1 seed as well, too. They've also beaten Kansas City this year, too. So Cincinnati's got a real shot at number 1 here. If they can beat Buffalo on Monday night next week, where's that game? I believe that game is in Cincinnati. So they've got a real shot to catch Buffalo and maybe take up that number 1 seed. They've already beaten Kansas City. They beat them 27-24. They've got Buffalo next Monday night. They've got the Ravens to close out the end of the year. That's a big one as well for the division, because they lost to Baltimore the first time that they played on a game-winning Justin Tucker field goal. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens, they're still without Lamar Jackson. They got a win over the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are officially eliminated now at 5-10 because the NFC South is horrible. 9 losses or 8 losses is going to win the division. So 17-9 it was for Tyler Huntley, 115 yards, a touchdown. Gus Edwards back running, 99 yards on 11 carries. And Desmond Ridder, 218 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. They've got something in Desmond Ridder for Atlanta, and it's going to be better next year. And Algier led them in rushing. But the Falcons are 5-10. They're done. They're officially eliminated. And Baltimore clinches a playoff spot. Right now, they are 5th in the wild card. They're a game back to Cincinnati for the division. But in the wild card standings, they're 5th. Jacksonville is in 4th. They're in 1st place now. We'll get to the Titans in a second. But Baltimore, with that clinch spot, is at 10-5, 1 game back of Cincinnati. The New England fumbled inside the 5-yard line when they were down 22-18, and that's what cost them the game. The New England Patriots are now in the 8th spot at 7-8. They lost. The Jets lost. Tennessee lost. So all is good in the world for the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as, and Pittsburgh now 7-8 as they beat the Raiders. We'll get to that in a second. Very special ceremony there as well. Gardner Minshew started for the Eagles. They played well. It's not just one player. Jalen Hurts being out. It was a big difference, but the defense gave up 40 points as Dallas beat them 40-34. This changes the language a little bit for the Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles in terms of the NFC East. They're 2 games back. Dallas is 2 games back. They've lost to Philadelphia early. Now they've evened the head-to-head. And in terms of standings, division-wise, I believe with only 2 losses, that Philadelphia still has the conference record. They're 8-2, but Dallas is 8-3 now in conference play. So Dallas will have the Titans next week, who are just struggling, and then they'll have the Washington Commanders on the road, and that's not an easy task right now. Washington replaced Heineke in the third quarter with Carson Wentz, so Rivera said that they were going to make some changes if the quarterback play didn't improve. I still don't see how bad he was. He was 5-2-1 was Heineke. But anyway, an outside shot at the East for the Dallas Cowboys because they are 2 games back. They have the better division record at 4-1, and the common opponents would be the next one within the division. So if somehow Philadelphia can lose the next 2 games, and Dallas wins, then they can take the division by virtue of the division record, which is first in tiebreakers within the division. So unlikely to happen. Philadelphia will have 2 games left. They've got the Saints next week at home, and then they've got the Giants on the final weekend at home as well too. So 2 home games. You don't expect Philadelphia to lose. You don't know if you're going to get Jalen Hurts back either. I bet he comes back. May not come back for the Saints game, but he might come back for the New York Giants game because that's a rivalry as well. All right, we mentioned the Titans. They're going to play the Cowboys next week. They lose to Houston. The Houston Texans beat up on them 19-14. They were very physical. 2-12-1 now for Houston. Tennessee 7-8. Let me tell you what happens with Tennessee now. 19-14 the score, a 14-10 lead. Malik Willis started. Tannehill was out. If you took the playoffs right now, the Tennessee Titans would be below New England, below the New York Jets, below Miami, who's in 7th, and below the Chargers in 6th. They fall all the way out of the playoff spot. They're ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers by virtue of conference games. So Tennessee 5-6, Pittsburgh 3-7 in conference games. So they're out of the playoffs because the Jacksonville Jaguars thumped them 2 weeks ago. They beat the Jets the other night. They're both tied at 7-8. So head-to-head's the first tiebreaker. Jacksonville gets the first place vote, and they will get the 4th seed if they can run through the table here. Now, they play each other again on the final week of the season, does Tennessee and Jacksonville. The Jaguars will play the Texans next week, who just beat Tennessee. Tennessee has got Dallas, and then they've got the Jaguars to close out the season. So both the AFC South, I said it, I thought it was over 6 weeks ago for Tennessee and for Tampa Bay. But now both could be out of the playoffs by virtue of their lackluster play by both the Buccaneers and the Titans. Jacksonville, what a story that would be. They're 5-2 after starting out 2-6, and they're in first place in the division in the AFC South and 4th overall in the AFC rankings. They would get a home game. Probably as of right now, it would be Baltimore going to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville beat them early in the year on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. So a very interesting scenario going on for the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC South. Jacksonville beat the Jets on Thursday night, 19-3. That defense has played well. I know there's a lot of Coach of the Year candidates out there, but I want to throw Doug Peterson's hat in there. 2-6 to start. They were playing awful. Trevor Lawrence was throwing the ball all over the place, but now they're 5-2 since then and have looked really good, and they're in first place. So who's to say anything about the Jacksonville Jaguars? All right, last night in Pittsburgh, the Franco Harris's jersey was retired. It was supposed to be the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, from Bradshaw to Frenchie Fuqua to Franco Harris. You've seen all the replays for the last 50 years. He scored the touchdown that beat the Raiders on the last play of the game. I always wonder what would have happened if that game had been in today's conditions with replay and the rules that go on. It's too long to go into right now. But the Immaculate Reception, unfortunately, as everybody knows by now, Franco Harris passed away. The news came out Wednesday morning. So not only was it a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, which everybody's seen on TV or in highlights, the Steelers have retired Franco Harris's jersey, number 32. They retired it Saturday night. I give his widow and his son credit for being at the ceremony. Very tough to watch because obviously it only happened 4 days ago, but they were there and they supported the Steeler organization who's been there for them for the last 50 years, at least through Franco Harris's career. Terry Bradshaw was very emotional on the pregame show on Fox today, and I know he taped something for the ceremony for the video board today. So condolences to the Harris family. Franco Harris, a great running back, Hall of Fame member. He was looking forward to being here for the ceremony. It's a highlight that will never go away. It's in the lore of the NFL Films division in New Jersey. They've got that on loop every time they want to show the best highlights of the last 100 years of the NFL. It's right there with it. So this is the 50th anniversary from 1972. 72 years old, ironically, Franco Harris's age when he passed away. And our condolences go out to the family, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the fan base, and everybody involved there. Okay. The game, by the way, 13-10. Couldn't have happened better for the Steelers. A last-second play. Well, it didn't happen on the last play of the game, but it happened with 40 seconds left. Kenny Pickett, who's looked really good, found Pickens in the end zone. George Pickens, the Rookie of the Year. He's going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate for the Steelers at wide receiver. They got the touchdown when they were down 10-6. The extra point made it 3. Those of you that had the Steelers -2 followed my pick as well, too. Then you covered the points, and what a night for them to cover the points against the Raiders on Franco Harris's jersey retirement ceremony on the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. All right, let's get to the games here for tomorrow. Miami 3.5 versus Green Bay 49.5. Here's the scenario for the Miami Dolphins. They're not going to win the AFC East. They're 7th by virtue of losing to the Chargers 2 Sunday nights ago. They're both 8-6, so the Chargers and the Dolphins. They need a win to stay ahead of the Jets, the Patriots, and Tennessee and Pittsburgh. They are ahead of them. Even if they lose, they'll be a game ahead of them. They'll still be in the 7th spot, but there are tiebreakers that factor into this. Green Bay is 6-8. A win by Green Bay tomorrow on the road at Miami, 3.5-point underdog, 49.5 the total. They put themselves back into 7-8 with the Detroit Lions, the Seattle Seahawks. They'll be a half game back of the Washington Commanders, who are 7-1 now. Washington beat Green Bay. Detroit beat Green Bay. I believe Seattle beat Green Bay, too. I want to make sure I got this right here. I don't remember that they played them. The Giants beat Green Bay when they went to England. They did not play the AFC West or the NFC West this year. So let me see. Seattle. So it goes back to conference records. And if they end up tied with Seattle, Seattle's 5-6. Green Bay is 5-5. So that's a huge game for them tomorrow to try and get to 7-8. It's a non-conference game, so it won't affect that standing. But if they end up tied with the Seattle Seahawks, then they'll have the advantage over them, and then they'll try to catch Washington. Washington beat them early in the year. The Giants also beat Green Bay in London, so it's a huge game for them to stay within reach. If not, they'll pretty much be eliminated. 3.5, they're the first game at 1 o'clock tomorrow in the afternoon, 10 o'clock on the West Coast on Fox, 49.5 the total in Miami. Second game, a throwaway game. Denver Broncos, they're going to get Russell Wilson back. They may not have Latavius Murray. 3-point favorite at the Rams, 36.5 at SoFi, 4:30 in the afternoon, 1:30 on the West Coast in Los Angeles at SoFi. No Aaron Donald. The Rams are 4-10, been eliminated. They're not going to have Aaron Donald. They probably shouldn't play him for the rest of the year. Baker Mayfield's still starting at quarterback. Cam Akers has kind of come out of the woodwork again. He's been running the ball pretty well. Would you trust the Denver defense to stop the Rams? Rams had the Packers on the ropes for 2.5 quarters, but then Aaron Rodgers got hot, and they ended up losing by 14 to Green Bay. Can Denver put some points on the board? Denver has had a tough time doing that this year. They have only scored about 17 points a game. Where are they? They have scored 218 points in 14 games. That's barely 15 a game. 15 a game, a little over 15. They've given up 253. The Rams have scored 230, and they've given up 320 points. So this might be fair for the Denver Broncos to be -3. The total 36.5. That's a low totals. We had 2 low totals this week. New Orleans and Cleveland were 32. Tennessee and and Houston was 34. And guess what? They both went under. New Orleans 17-10 over Cleveland. Tennessee 19-14 over Tennessee losing to Houston 19-14. So that's the middle game. Won't spend a lot of time on it. Tampa Bay, we talked about them already. They need a win to stay in first place. If they lose to Arizona, and they're 7.5-point favorite at Arizona, 40.5 the total. If you're interested in what happened this week, the favorites have gone 7-5. The totals, the over is 5-7. So the under has been predominant in this week 16 so far. The underdogs that came through this week were the Jaguars on Thursday, the Saints, the Giants, the Panthers, the Texans, and that's it. Those are it. Those are the five. Those are the five dogs that came in, and then the overs were the Bills and Bears, the Giants and Vikings, the Panthers and Lions, the Commanders and 49ers, and the Eagles and Cowboys. And those have been the five overs. It's been an under. What do you like? Let me know in your comments on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. Love to hear from you. VPartySports here with the podcast for this Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to everybody. Hopefully you're getting ready, settled in for some football. If you've already are watching this at the 9:00 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern time for the replay, then you've already missed the best bet for the first game, which was Philadelphia and New York over 217. But we're going to have our best bet segment here. The NFL lines, let's go back to the NFL lines and get to that third game. As we said, the third game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 7.5 at Arizona, 40.5, 6-8 for Tampa Bay. They need the win to stay in first. Otherwise, Carolina takes over the first place spot in that NFC South, and that puts the Buccaneers out of the playoff race with that many losses. It's going to be interesting to see how they show up because we know that they have not scored very many points this year. They've had a tough time on offense. Defense has given up the worst rushing attack. Arizona can run the ball a little bit. They're minus 41 in point differential, 247 points scored in 14 games. So it's less than 14 a game, and 288 points allowed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Arizona Cardinals are minus 80. They scored 292 points, but given up a whopping 372 points. So 7.5 points. It's always tough to lay more than a touchdown in the NFL to begin with. Now you're on the road laying a touchdown in the NFL. Even though the Arizona Cardinals are going with their third string quarterback, it's going to be interesting to see. And again, the favorites are 7-5, and the over 5-7 in favor of the unders. 5 overs and 7 unders, and you see the 3 game lines going by. Monday night, the Chargers, that's a huge game. We'll preview that on Monday at 3 Eastern on the podcast, 12 Pacific, and don't forget daily posts every day during the week at 6 Eastern and 3 o'clock Pacific on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All right, the never duplicated, unprecedented best bet segment for Sunday, Christmas Day. 5 NBA games starting at noon, 3 NFL games. There are 4 college games. You see the lines going at the bottom. The Diamond Head Classic, there is one Big East game, and that's the Creighton Blue Jays at home in Omaha, Nebraska. 15-point favorites over the DePaul Blue Demons. It's been a rough start for DePaul. Creighton started off 6-1. They've lost 6 in a row. So that's your college basketball. And then there's 4 other games going on as well, too, in this matchup. It's Seattle University versus George Washington, Iona versus Pepperdine, Utah State versus Washington State, and Hawaii, the host team, versus SMU. So those are the 4 games, the championship game taking place with Hawaii and SMU in the evening. And then Miami, Green Bay, first game in the NFL, Miami 3.5, 49.5, Denver minus 3, 36.5, and then Tampa Bay 7.5 at Arizona, 40.5. And then Monday night, the Chargers 4 at Indianapolis. You've got the NBA lines, Philadelphia, New York, 2.5, 217. Lakers are 8-point underdog to Dallas. Dallas minus 8, 229.5. Boston 5 versus Milwaukee at home, 224.5. Memphis at Golden State, no Curry, no Wiggins, 6.5 for Memphis, 229. Memphis in second in the West. The number 1 team in the West, the Denver Nuggets, the 3.5-point favorite over the Phoenix Suns, 231.5 in Denver. All right, the best bet segment. We already gave you the Philadelphia, New York over 217. Again, if you're catching this on the last replay after 12 o'clock Eastern, game's already off the board, sorry. But Philadelphia, New York over 217. In the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. They're at home. They play well at home. They are, if I can find them here, they are 5-1 at home. The Green Bay Packers on the road are 2-5. Miami covers this game, -3.5 in this game. I don't have an opinion on the Denver-LA game, and both teams are eliminated. There's other things to go at. So, but at night, I just don't like laying 7.5 points. It's too many points on the road. More than a touchdown anyway is too much in a lot of scenarios. So the Arizona Cardinals, even with a third-string quarterback, plus 7.5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they might even win the game outright, and then the Carolina Panthers will be in first place. Okay, so those are your two NFL games. In the NBA, I know Boston's lost 3 out of 4, but they got a rolling against Minnesota the other night. Milwaukee is terrible on the road. I mean, they are just awful on the road this year. They've been beaten badly by they are 8-7 away, but those are against bad teams. They got beat up by Memphis, 41 points. Boston, the number 1 seed, half game better than Milwaukee, who's 22-10. Milwaukee's only 6-4, but lost 2 straight on this current swing. They give up 109 points. Boston gives up 112, but they score 118. So give me Boston -5. Denver, the number 1 seed in the West, they're 11-3 at home. Phoenix is only 5-9 on the road. 3 sounds very low. I'm giving the Denver Nuggets -3. Though the Suns are getting Devin Booker back, he missed his last 3 games. They get that big time scorer back. But Denver's going on a roll right now. Jamal Murray playing well, and of course the 2-time MVP, the Joker, Nikola Jokic, back for them. Memphis, Golden State. Golden State gave up 91 points to the Brooklyn Nets on the road. Now they play better at home. We said that. They're 12-2 at home, and the Memphis Grizzlies are 7-9 on the road. It's tough point spread, 6.5. No Steph Curry, no Andrew Wiggins, but they're giving up 91 points to the Brooklyn Nets. Memphis can score. This game's going over 229. And then the Lakers are not going to have Anthony Davis indefinitely. LeBron James is semi-questionable for tomorrow. Dallas playing well at home. This is a chance for them to be on national TV for Christmas. They're 12-5 at home. The Lakers are in 14. They're in 13th place. They're 5-11 on the road. They're only 7-12 in the conference play, and Dallas 12-6 in the conference play. Dallas averaging 111 a game, giving up 109, and the Lakers 115, but giving up 117. Lakers have lost 3 in a row, 3-7 in their last 10. Dallas 5-5 after winning 2 straight. So those are your best bets. Miami -3.5, Arizona +7.5 in the NFL. The NBA has Boston -5, Denver -3, Dallas -8, Memphis Golden State over 229, and of course the over Philadelphia and New York over 217. Again, unless this is the last replay, the game's already started. If you got this after 12 o'clock Eastern, we'll be back Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific. A full recap of Christmas Sunday and Saturday for the NFL. The NBA Christmas Day, we'll recap the 5 games. We'll get into college basketball. The NHL is off until Tuesday. And don't forget our daily post at 6 Eastern every day, 3 o'clock Pacific. If you're interested in sponsorships, please contact me directly. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Connect at me at VPartySports. Right there you see it on Twitter and Instagram. Vasu Vaddiparty on Facebook and YouTube as well. Once again to everybody, a 4-0 Saturday, early Christmas presents from me to you. Hopefully these best bets will go. We make some profit on Christmas Day, get some more good presents. But sincerely, from me to you, my family to yours, all the listeners, to all the viewers, Merry Christmas. Thank you for your support. Really appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific on the VPartySports podcast with Vasu Vaddiparty. Have a great Christmas. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the action. Good luck. And we will see you tomorrow. Take care.